What's up, everybody? Good Monday evening to you all. Hope you're having a fantastic start to your week. Welcome into another episode of OBR Game Tape here on the OBR Streaming Network. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are so incredibly close to that 10,000 subscriber goal. So be a friend, tell a friend. I used to say this a lot on my other show, but I wanted to put it out there. We appreciate all of you so very, very much. The most valuable thing you can give someone is some of your time. So thank you for giving some of yours to us. I am Jacob. That is Sam Penix. For some reason, our names are not on the screen. I'm just noticing that. That's odd.
Nameless
Don't
today.
know. It's a weird. All right, whatever.
Doesn't matter who we are.
Doesn't matter. Who gives
No
a
one,
shit?
you know,
Who cares? Well,
we're here to watch football. We don't care.
we just want to talk about football. We don't care who you guys are. Just tell us about football. This is pre-recorded. We're recording this on Sunday night, so we have not been able to see whatever, if anything crazy has happened in Browns training camp practice on Monday. But for tonight's show, we're going to talk about some of our early camp standouts, and we're going to look a little bit at some Diontae Johnson film. So, Sam, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm not doing too bad. Ready to start another week here. We're another week closer to actual football being played, so that's exciting. And it's not been that hot recently, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it's I went outside and was able to cut the grass without needing to drink a gallon of water afterwards.
Or needing multiple shirts.
Yeah. That's typically what it ends up being is multiple shirts and multiple showers and things like that. So that is a lot better from that sense. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. So let's get into it, man. We've got 2 weeks of practices in the books. Their first week of padded practices happened this week. One thing that was significant that I wanted to highlight, and I'm sure other people on this network have highlighted, they tackled to the ground for the first time in the Kevin Stefanski era. I think that's significant, personally, because, well, again, this is year 6 and they didn't do it. And one thing that I, talked about going into the off season and everything was like, you've got to change something. You just went 3-14. Like, you can't do everything exactly the same way you did before. And they have changed some things. They're tackling to the ground. There's more intensity out there. They seem to be at a faster pace. So I like seeing those sorts of things happen because, again, I think they're significant. But let's talk about some camp standouts. We'll give you guys some guys that early on so far through the first couple of weeks have stood out to us going into the first week of the preseason. So, Sam, give me somebody that's stood out to you so far.
Well, I first want to acknowledge how crazy it is that, you said just casually, this is year 6 of the same coaching staff here. Like, there are first graders, kids going into the first grade who have never been alive during a different coaching regime. So progress, we'll take it. As far as standouts, I know a lot of people, on the OBR, like Pete's talked about these guys. Mason Graham just has to be one. I think they're pretty happy with how he's looked early on in camp, and it's like, you could kind of tell that was coming. Like, he's a really good football player, but I think they're seeing some things from him as far as like body composition and pass rush ability that is definitely encouraging and will hopefully translate to production, in games.
Yeah. There was this thing that came out because he threw up one time that he was out of shape and slow, and that's still one of those narratives that, like, I don't know why I let it get under my skin the way I did, but like I was like very like legitimately upset about it because I'm like, you saw a dude in the middle of summer when it was like 90 some degrees throw up on a football field. I used to do that all the time.
Yeah. If you've played football, you know what that's like. And you know that once you throw up, you're like, oh, I feel so much better. Let's get right back into it. No hesitation. Funny story. One time we were playing the Turkey Bowl Thanksgiving Day. Wife was there. And we just started dating.
Mhm.
Know the game. All of a sudden, I get that feeling. You know what's about to happen. I get subbed out, walk over the sideline, down, hunched over. I turned and locked eyes with my girlfriend at the time, and then
I'm not gonna. I hate to interrupt your story, but I've lost your sound. I can't hear you. Because I was very invested in that story, and then your audio was like, "No, you don't get to hear it."
how's that?
Sounds better.
Back? Right.
Yeah.
Better, worse?
Yeah, there you go. You're good.
All right, this is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know where you lost me, but I went over there, hunched over. I feel it. I turn, I lock eyes with my girlfriend across the field. She's on the other side, and then it just all comes out. So it was the sight of her that made me it was a last straw. Is how the story goes.
The fact that there was eye contact before that happened.
Immediately.
just like in that split second, you're like, oh no. Okay, so for me, first guy, wide receiver, wrote him up. By the time you see this article is probably already live over at theobr.com. I wrote up about 700 or 800 words on it. Gage Larvadain. That's it. Larvadain is how you say it. Number 84. I've been trying to learn how to say his name, but I keep continuing to say it in different ways. Very happy, by the way. Main event just ended at WrestleMania as we're recording this, and Cody Rhodes is your new WWE champion. He beat John Cena. So there we go. Anyway, for all the 3 wrestling fans watching this that care. All right. So we'll move on past that. But here's the thing. This wide receiver room's got a lot of questions that need answers. And Gage Larvadain is 5'8", 172 pounds. I get that. Okay. Everybody's going to come at me and be like, this dude would be an insane outlier if he was productive in the NFL, 5'8", 172 pounds. But this dude is fast. His change of direction's impressive. I love what he does after the catch. And his ability to track the ball. He's got 4.45 speed. So he's not like 4.3. He's not insanely fast, but he's very explosive. And it seems like every time there's an explosive play from the offense, not every time, but almost every time, Larvadain seems to be the guy that's on the receiving end of it. He caught that beautiful just dime on yesterday on Saturday from Joe Flacco in the corner of the end zone. And like, he also caught one from Dylan Gabriel where he like broke 3 tackles and ran it in. Like, I just think Larvadain is a guy that I'm not sure there's 6 guys on this roster right now that are rosterable necessarily. Like, I think they may bring in a cut candidate or a trade wide receiver somewhere. But Larvadain is a guy I think it's very interesting because he's also got some return experience. And so they love to, people are talking about rostering DeAndre Carter. Well, we know DeAndre Carter has not been a productive wide receiver. He's just been a returner. With Larvadain, his speed and agility might be helpful out of the slot. Like, I think he can do some creative things after the catch, and I think he can return kicks. And for that reason, he's a standout. I'm very interested in what he does in the preseason.
Is this going to be the next guy in the lineage of, Damon Sheehy, Giuseppe, Austin Watkins, Josh Lenz, Richard Mullaney, etc.? There's always a guy, and it's always a bummer.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, somebody asked me, is he going to be the...
To be fair, we don't know who that, wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6 is this year, so.
Somebody asked me, is he going to be the preseason wide receiver rookie of the year for the Browns? Because as you just said, there's a long list of them. So, yeah, maybe that's all he ever amounts to. He's still a long shot, I know, but, like, his name just is on my timeline. When the Browns are practicing, Gage Larvadan is there. Boom, boom, making plays. And so, he had 1 year at South Carolina. He started at a couple years at the FCS level. Then he went to Miami, Ohio, and then played at South Carolina. He was at South Carolina. He had like 19 catches for 200 yards. So most of his production came in the MAC and at the FCS level. So he's a very long shot. But he has garnered my attention enough to where I'm like, this is an interesting conversation, at least. Apparently, I turned off the SummerSlam, and Brock Lesnar decided to return to WWE, and I didn't see it, so you can all make fun of me for that. Sam, you got another name for me?
How about Aiden Huntington, who is going to be trying to make the team as, probably the last defensive lineman on the roster. And it seems like the coaching staff really likes what they've been seeing out of him. And, I think even though there is a lot of depth in that position room, if he can show some pass rushing chops and some versatility to, kick inside, outside, depending on the look, I think there's a potential avenue for him to make the roster, especially with how highly they're talking about him and how much is coming out about him, just over these first couple weeks.
Yeah, Pete Smith loves Aiden Huntington, man. Like he absolutely loves him. He's been a guy on Pete's radar the whole time. But yeah, man, being able to play inside outside will never not be a good thing to this regime. Like you having that versatility. Like, I'm sorry, man. This defensive line, I don't care if it's the first, second, or third string. They've been fast, explosive, and in the quarterback's lap. And some people have asked us in our insider forums, which, by the way, please join our insider forums. Like, if you get a VIP subscription to the OBR, you get the insider content from Lane, which I think is worth the price of admission. Then you get the Ask the Insider premium forums where we'll try to answer your questions to the best of our abilities. And the thing that I always come back to is you get, after your first month, once it renews for a second month, you get Paramount Plus with Showtime subscription for free, which you're going to be paying $10 for that, $15 for that. Might as well give it to us and not just CBS. Give us a little bit of it, a little bit of that cheddar. But just totally lost my train of thought. I have no idea where I was going with that one. I am so sorry.
Aiden Huntington.
Aiden Huntington. We've had that. Yeah. So the questions have been coming in the forum like, is the offensive line struggling, or do we think the defensive line is just that good? I think the defensive line is just that good because I've been up there and I've talked to some people that have been up there. That defensive line, it's deep. If they're healthy and they play up to their ability, man, you talked about Mason Graham. Mason Graham's looked awesome. Malik Collins has looked awesome. Like, those guys are awesome. I'll give you one more standout for me. That's not Diontae Johnson, because I think Diontae Johnson, who we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth, I think has actually had a pretty good camp so far, pretty good start to camp. I like what Harold Fannon's doing. And the thing, and you had Harold Fannin, didn't you? I saw that.
I'm just happy about it because he's a blast.
They have been the thing that, so last Saturday, it was like the second practice that was open to the public. I was up there with Brad Ward and a couple of other of our friends. And the thing that kept grabbing my attention about Harold Fannin was the different ways they were using him, where they were lining him up. Where they were lining him up, and like they had him motion from out wide into the slot. They put him at H-back and motioned him out. And like that, we've talked about maybe the reason they didn't draft a wide receiver is because they drafted a tight end that will double as a big body wide receiver and play some slot and play some outside and do some things like that.
We talked about all that versatility with him. Yep. And that's what they're doing. And
then we're seeing it. And like you said, I'm just happy about it. That's how and I've talked to Casey Kenneman. He feels the exact same way. That's the best way to describe it. I'm just happy that they're doing that because we're seeing creativity back in the offense, which we did not see last year. And it's like, if they're going to win games, they're going to have to be creative this year. If they're going to win games, their offense has to be creative. The defense just needs to play up to its ability because it's very gifted. But if they want this offense to be good enough, they've got to be creative. And Harold Fannon's been doing some really, really fun things. Real quick,
we're not quite in that Reggie Hodges NFL record fake punt run situation, but it's like getting that to that point.
Dude, I'll never forget that fake punt because
I saw it live and it was just like,
I was like, I think Reggie Hodges, I don't think there was anybody in the world that was more surprised than he was. He was like, really? No one's coming after me? Okay. Because it doesn't even look like he's running hard. It looks like he's just jogging. He's just like, da, 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 da.
I don't think he could go any faster. That's the thing. Like, that was it. That was only.
Okay. You don't want to get hurt. You don't want to run too hard and then get hurt. You're the only punter. Like, we don't want to. Yeah, we're not there yet. Do you got one more? Do you got one more before we switch it down?
Carson Schlesinger. There's a lot of positive stuff coming out about him, and I think that was sorely needed after losing 2 starting linebackers in JOK and Hicks. So if he can, get up to speed from a mental perspective, maybe quicker than they anticipated, just because he's had to be thrown in there, I think that's a huge win. And I think they were envisioning him being a foundational piece of this defense moving forward, but having to rely on him so much this season, I think is, unfortunately unexpected maybe, but, he might be up to the challenge, based on what we're hearing.
He looks the part, right? Like physically and like the way he communicates and he moves and all those things. Like he fully looks the part of a Mike linebacker. And like the fact that he's like green dotting it out the gate and like just rolling with it.
That is like, you can't understate how big that is for a rookie.
Casey Kinnaman asked me this on the Barking Browns. He's like, I don't remember the last time a rookie just came in and took the green dot. What, like Luke Kuechly in Carolina? And of course we know who Luke Kuechly was. It was a damn shame that he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's a load of shit if you ask me.
Yeah.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. One other guy that I want to highlight, and then we'll get into the main event and talk about Diontae Johnson to wrap this thing, put a bow on this show. But I really like what I've seen from Dylan Sampson. Explosive. It's one thing to look explosive in college. It's another to look explosive against NFL talent. And the thing that's most important when talking about Dylan Sampson and talking about Harold Fannin is if this defense is as good as we think it is, they're doing it against a good unit. They're doing this stuff in practice against one of the better units if it is as good as we think it is. And like that's why I say, like I talked about the offensive line and stuff, like I'm like, well, maybe some of those struggles are just because the defense is really freaking good. But Dylan Sampson, like in some of the earlier practices before they were tackling and had pads on, what I was just noticing was like the screen game with him looks like it could just be stupid because he's so patient, has great vision, and he just 0 to 100, just 0 to 100. And he kept that up. Now he did have a welcome to the NFL moment courtesy of Carson Schlesinger on the first day of pads when Carson Schlesinger just demolished him. And he's like, oh, that's what we're doing today. Okay. But I give the kid credit, literally right back on his feet. Right back on his feet. And then Schlesinger lit him up.
He was probably more surprised that Carson Schlesinger had a big hit than anything else.
Yeah.
That was – you can do that?
The hell? I'll tell you, when I saw Carson Schlesinger, like when I was there physically looking at him, he's bigger than I thought he was. Like he looks physically bigger than what I thought he did on tape. Like
good.
That was, yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Yeah, because
that was the biggest thing for him was just can he get stronger? Can he add some more muscle and be a factor when he's getting blocked? And hopefully he can do that.
Yeah, looks like he's had some of that stuff. So those are some of our early camp standouts. We are, again, the show is pre-recorded, so we apologize if we can't interact. I'll try to interact in the comments as I can. So let's talk to the main event. Let's go to Diontae Johnson. We're going to do some film review. I know you got some film cut up. I got one game cut up. I'll show after yours from last year. But just kind of just some overall thoughts where you think what kind of at his best. We all know about the off the field stuff, and we all know that the concerns and the questions that we still have, the reservations that we still have is, does he have his head on straight? Does the fact that the Browns were the only team that was interested in him after what happened last year, does that have a bearing on him? Does that make him lock in? Does that get the best out of him? We know that is the big asterisk next to him because, and I'll ask you this question. When I watch him, and I'll show it in a minute, when I watched him last year when he was still locked in Carolina, this dude is still a very physically talented wide receiver.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, because I watched through, 2023. It's like, this guy, is he the sharpest route runner? No. Is he the biggest guy? No. Does he have the strongest hands? No. But he gets open at an extremely high rate just because he's so quick. Like, he is noticeably quicker and faster, a better athlete than not only the rest of the receivers around him and, a lot of the receivers around the league, but against the guys who are trying to cover him. And it just leads to him creating these open spaces for the quarterback to get up the ball. And when I went and looked at his 2024 tape to see if he had, lost a step from that, I didn't think he had. And I know he's 29 now, so he's approaching 30, which it's almost like 30 used to be the drop-off point for running backs, right? And now it's becoming the drop-off point for receivers too. Like, it's if you look at the data on it, it's like it's crazy how much of a drop-off there is on these guys, which is why the Terry McLaurin trade market is going to be so interesting. But for him, if he's still able to be that superior athlete, he's a really, really talented player, and that has resulted in some good production with some very subpar quarterback play. I don't really know how you can watch that quarterback play in Pittsburgh and be like, yeah, well, I want to give up a 5th round pick for that. But maybe things are different now. Like, hopefully they are. But it was rough, whether it was Pickett or whether it was Trubisky throwing him the ball that year. That was a rough season. But as far as him specifically, again, it's a huge if. If he can keep his head on straight, if he can stay focused and locked in. But if he can do that, that is a massive boost to this offense. And I think it opens up so much. Obviously saying you can't understate that can't overstate that is hyperbole, but it's significant. It's very significant how much of a difference he would make if he's actually, playing at his peak.
The thing that I would say to sum up what I thought watching his 24 tape in Carolina, there's really not much to watch outside of the Carolina games last year, was this dude separates. And he's creative after the catch. Like you said, the quickness, the speed, it's very there. He does and I'll show, and I've got some examples of this. What I love about his route running, it's not necessarily the most polished, like you talked about, but he has these little subtleties at the top of his route where he'll take a false step outside and then just round it off. And then he's got 5 yards of separation. And even if and a lot of times it'll be a route to the corner where he grabs the balls and steps out of bounds, but it'll be a 15, 20 yards downfield where he does it.
Yeah. And it's not even like the DB did anything wrong. It was just the way that Johnson cut off that route and finished it. It created that big cushion, and not every very few guys do it that. He's legitimately a really good player. He is really good. It's just, are we going to see that version of him?
It's because he just looks like he's just going to run a go route. He'll just full speed running a go route, and then he just kind of gives you a little one of these, and you're like, what the? And you think, he's going to keep going to he's going to run a post. No, he's rounding it off and going to the sideline, and you're like, well, shit. What are you supposed to do? Sorry, man. I will give you the stage, and let's take a look.
All right. Yeah, this wasn't his most productive season in Pittsburgh. I think a lot of that was quarterback related, but there's a plenty of impressive routes on here, and I think one takeaway that I had coming away from watching through this was I can see how he would fit in a Kevin Stefanski offense super well, and how they'd be able to use him. Like if you took Johnson and you just swapped him 1-for-1 in the way that they used to use Jarvis Landry, I think he would find a lot of success. He's not as dependable as Landry. Like he'll drop passes. He can make some pretty impressive adjustments from time to time, but he's not the dependable, reliable, like for a fact he's going to catch it. Like he'll have some focus drops. He'll have some issues there with his hands. But just in the terms of like the way that he can create separation in those underneath routes and then be a threat deeper down the field, whether it's to the sideline or across the field, I think there's plenty of possibilities there that can open things up. And I really hope that he's able to rebound this season with the Browns, because I think that'd be huge, because that's going to help him long term financially. But I really think it would make a huge difference for this offense to have him. But I don't necessarily know that you can like bank on that happening as a coaching staff. So
he's a lottery ticket that you haven't scratched off yet.
Yeah, you don't know. So, but I mean, early indications, in camp are positive, but we'll see if that continues. So this first snap is an example of him not quite being able to adjust to a pass that you're like, maybe, the upper echelon receivers, you'd like them to be able to, because he's not like that number one guy, right? He's not an elite top tier number one. He's probably at his best. I think he's a low end one, high end two, I think is how I would put it. And even that might be pushing it. But so he's down at the bottom of your screen here. This throw from Pickett's behind him, you want this to be right here, lead him out of bounds, but he's got to work backwards, flip around, rotate, and then it's high. So is that catchable ultimately? Yeah, maybe, but I'm not going to fault him for that. That's the quarterback's fault. So
yep.
I've got, I think, 2 clips from the game he played against the Browns in 2023. So this was the NFL's best defense version of the Browns, like one of the best defenses of the past decade, 25 years. And like when we were talking about, he's really good. When Denzel Ward was on him, he absolutely nothing. Like, just nothing. Because Denzel Ward is just, I don't even think this fan base realizes how good the guy is, and certainly not national. Like, he's just fantastic. But on this play, there's kind of a miscommunication, so you'll see that Ward and Newsome end up in the same spot, covering the same guy on what looks like zone, and that leaves Johnson wide open up at the top of the screen. So Ward's expecting there to be a pass off here, but Newsome continues to run with him, but Pickett's not able to see it in time and ends up as a sack. So this is an interesting throw that so this is not Kenny Pickett, this is Mitchell Trubisky. First time I saw this, I didn't even watch through the whole play because I was like, what is this? Because this is like, never ever do this. If you're playing quarterback, don't do this. I'm sure the coaching staff was yelling at him on the sideline after this. Don't do this. I mean, he's waiting, trying to make something happen. And then, oh no, he's fading away, getting hit, and he's throwing the ball across the middle, back over the middle of the field. Somehow, Johnson ends up with the ball, but that was a long scramble drill. Could have been disastrous, but it wasn't. So here, again, like, quick little route here. It's like he gets an unusual amount of separation on these quick routes that normally there's not enough time for that much separation to be created. And it's just
a little bit of wiggle.
Enjoyable to watch. Yep, that's all it takes. And he's able to do that. So on this one, he makes the grab, gets out of the tackle, doesn't really end up gaining any, probably loses yards on that, but he gets to gets out of that little phone booth that he was in initially and is able to at least run more. This is a nice catch here, bottom of your screen on the sideline. So here there's not much separation, but he's got a guy draped on him. Nice grab. So it's just consistency with him in terms of catching the ball. He can make really nice, impressive, strong catches. It's just, can you do that consistently is the question. And thus far in his career, like he is who he is, he's not that consistent in that area. But you live with that because of all the other things he can do. So here's an example of him taking a screen pass, which, we've heard a lot about in training camp, how the Browns are going to be utilizing screens again. And he's a guy who can do that. He's next to show his quickness again, like middle of your, he's in the slot here. So waits. Finally gets the ball, 1 foot in the ground, plant, boom. And then that defender doesn't get a hand on him.
That agility, change of direction stuff from him, it's really nice.
Yeah, he's got a lot of similarities to Jerry Jeudy, I think, in that regard. I think he might even be better with the ball in his hands than Jeudy is, but they both have a different level of quickness, being able to plant and move to a different point. So it's fun to watch. He's up at the top. This is what you're talking about, is these little subtle, he gets in. This is like teach tape here, because watch. He gets in the corner's blind spot before he makes his break back to the ball. Then the corner doesn't see him do that, and he gets that extra 2-3 yards of separation. So now he knows that the corner's running with him. He's looking the other direction because he thinks this is a go ball, right? That's what Johnson has set up. Break it off quickly. The corner sees him out of the corner of his eye, but it's too late at that point. So really, really nice route there. There's another sideline grab on the bottom. And that's just a strong play. So reach outside of his frame. Make sure you get the toes in. Good catch. This is a play that should have been a touchdown, and he's wide open down here. And this is something I can, the Browns like to do a lot, is these kind of like rub routes or picks from the same side in the red zone, especially the high red zone. Wide open here, like there's a huge window right here. Pickett's expecting him to kind of sit down over here. Johnson moves away from that defender because he feels him on his, reacting on his back over here, and just miscommunication, incomplete. Missed opportunity there, and he's not happy about it. So
yeah, he's not happy.
Probably that contributed to why he requested a trade at Pittsburgh, which I guess I can understand, but kind of ironic how things ended up, right?
Yeah, because him and Pickett are teammates again.
Up at the top here. Makes the catch on the sideline. Gets the feet in. Same thing up here. Comes back to the quarterback. Makes that throw. Makes a catch there. This is a nice job tracking the deep ball. And I think he does a really nice job here of, they teach light hands. Don't try to make the catch until the balls are right there, because then that corner doesn't have as much time to react and try to break up that pass, especially if his head is facing towards the receiver, so he doesn't have a beat on where the ball is in the air. He does that here. The corner is able to dive, but he can't get there. Makes the catch. Nice play. This is a throw that I think this is a good throw. Pickett gets the ball to him. there's a chance if he catches this ball, you know, angles himself properly, like, you know, he could potentially have a touchdown here, but just drops the ball. So unfortunate there. On the sideline, another strong catch adjusting through traffic. So he can do that. Again, it's just not consistent. Slot here. Scramble drill gets out open downfield, but gets broken up. And again, these are, I think, some of the reasons why he wasn't considered that top flight player, because from a physical perspective, like, you know, route running, speed, agility, quickness, he's up there with the best of them. It's just he's not as dependable of a receiver to be considered that much. And I think, you know, adding in all the off-field stuff, it's just not worth it. You know, the juice isn't worth the squeeze there if he's not focused on his craft. So here's one play where he gets open against the Browns, but the throw is way late, and that allows Ward to break that up. So I think Johnson's very happy he doesn't have to deal with that guy anymore.
Well, he's dealing with him in camp.
Yeah, but that's iron sharpening iron. That's not like I am completely making you irrelevant over these next 3.5 hours, and your coaching staff's not going to be happy with you.
So I've got all of these are from his best game. So I've got about 6 plays here from his best game last year that I wanted to go over, just to show you, hey, he still was routing guys up and separating really well last year. So he's at the very top of your screen, top wide receiver there. You see him up here, number 5, up here on the top. So you see him at the very top of the screen. I'm not sure which play this one is. So let's see here. Oh, yeah, right there. This is exactly – this ball gets tipped. So this ball ends up not getting to him. But this is a textbook of exactly what I was talking about with some of the little subtleties. Watch, he's running full speed here. And right there, you see him take a false step to the outside like he's going to continue, either go for a post or continue with the go route. And then he just quickly rounds it out and he goes to the sideline here. And if this ball, I think it gets tipped. Either way, it doesn't get to him. If this ball gets to him, as you can see, it's 13 yards, 14 yards. But this is just a perfect example of look where he's at right now. Look, this is the guy that's covering him. This guy's not looking at him, so he's got no shot. This guy's covering him, and you're talking about 5 yards. You're talking about 5 yards. Like, he has these little subtleties at the top of his routes that just create so much separation. And then of course you see
transmission.
Yeah.
Throttle up and down very, very easily.
Again, he does it right there, makes a difficult catch, and now watch the things that he can do after the catch there, where he starts at the bottom here, and he's going to give a little fake out like he's going to the outside, and then he's just going to round it up, make a grab. He almost breaks it there, but he gets tripped up. Where's he at? He's right here, up here in the slot on the top of your screen there. What I love about that play was he didn't move right away. Did you notice that? Like, this was like the first play that I showed you where he ran that route that the ball didn't get to him. This is actually the play that's literally right after it. And if you watch him at the beginning of this play, he actually was surprised by the snap. And he doesn't go right away, but he's just so quick in his ability to step and then change direction. And then watch what he does with the ball in his hands. Kind of fakes him out, change direction, get the ball in his hands, able to make a guy miss there, able to kind of do that. Eventually runs out of steam right about here, and he steps out of bounds. But, like, explosive play. Like, and he didn't even move right away. He wasn't ready for the snap. He stood there for like a full second, and then he's like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of this, and I'm going to be real creative. You'll see him in the slot right here. And the 2 guys outside of him here on the left side of your screen. And you'll see him just kind of drag it across. And if you see right he ends up making a really nice grab here. But if you see right about, let's see when he gets out of bounds here. If you see him right about here where this left hash mark is, you'll see him kind of in between these two hash marks, kick it into high gear. You'll see him where he's kind of running the route, and then all of a sudden he goes and he gets to that other gear when you see that speed, and he's able to pull away from the defender. You see him right about there. He turns it on, pulls away. Really nice throw from Andy Dalton. Touchdown.
He knows how to tempo his routes. That's another thing.
And
that is an acquired skill. That's you have to have the transmission to be able to do that, but then knowing how to actually implement that into your routes in order to, you're lulling the defender into a false sense of security, being like, okay, he's running this fast, and then oh shoot, he's he upshifted. Now he's in 6th. I thought he only had 5. Oh well.
See ya. He's at the very top of the screen here. This is going to be another example where he's going to give you a false step, like he's going to continue the go route. He's going to round it out, and the ball actually gets to him this time. So you see him right there. Oh, I'm sorry. He rounds it in. Like he was going to stay on the outside, rounds the route in. A bunch of separation. He's down here. You're going to see him there. That's the play I thought it was. But that's just another example of, the nuanced, what you were just talking about, the tempoing of the routes and the nuance. Like when we talk about nuance of the little things, the technical side, it's being able to do things like this, selling routes. Like he's so good at selling that he's going to go deep. And he still is going deep. I mean, they're chunk plays. They're 15, 20-yard chunk plays, but he's acting like it's a go ball where they're trying to get a 50-yard touchdown. And he just makes you think he's down here, and he's just going to kind of take a false step, and then he's just going to round it off, make the grab, and step out of bounds for 15 yards. Like, I think the thing is he's still an elite separator. He creates an easy target. He's creative after the catch. And for a team that is banking on average quarterback play, that's what you need. That's what I think. So, guys, we really appreciate you for tuning in again this week. Please make sure you subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Tomorrow's Tuesday, and that means Jeff Lloyd, as always, at 6 with Browns 3D, and the React with Pete and Brad Ward at 7 p.m. So, guys, we appreciate you so much. Not sure quite yet what we're going to do for next week's episode, but we will let you know when we know. We appreciate you guys. Stay tuned into the OBR. We'll see you guys again next time.